Hi everyone, Rick Russell here. Stand by for channel markers.
As we know, West Virginia was torn open by torpedoes, set afire, and sunk during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Her salvage and reconstruction lasted until July 1944. In silhouette, the rebuilt West Virginia slightly resembled a South Dakota-class battleship. The good news was she left Puget Sound Navy Yard equipped like one. In 2 months, despite only 12 of the enlisted guys having ever been at sea, Commanding Officer Captain Herbert Wiley molded a green crew into an impressive unit. The new and improved Battleship No. 48 arrived at Pearl Harbor on September 23rd, and less than a month later was beating off air attacks and bombarding shore targets in the Tacloban area of Leyte as part of Admiral Jesse Oldendorf's Task Group 77.2. West Virginia's smooth return to the fight lasted until October 21st, when the ship touched bottom on a turn and bent the tips of 3 or 4 props. The resulting vibration was severe enough to limit her sustained speed to 16 knots, but repairs would need to wait. Japanese surface units, including 2 battleships and a heavy cruiser, were dodging submarines and battling air attacks to get to Leyte Gulf. To meet them, on the 24th, Vice Admiral Thomas Kincaid, commander of the Central Philippine Attack Force under General MacArthur, ordered Oldendorf to prepare for a night engagement immediately. At 17:08 that day, Captain Wiley received the signal to get underway. By midnight, West Virginia was heading a single column of old battleships. The battle line included Maryland, Mississippi, Tennessee, California, and Pennsylvania. On their right flank stood 1 Australian heavy cruiser and 2 U.S. light cruisers. Guarding their left flank were 2 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, including Admiral Oldendorf's flagship Louisville, and 9 destroyers. Among the battleships and cruisers, 7 ships had earned their first battle star the hard way, at Pearl Harbor. The night was deadly silent. Sailors lucky enough to serve topside and not in the sweltering heat below only heard swishing water and the low hum of machinery. Wiley wished the troops ashore would not use so many star shells, as they threatened to silhouette his ship. As Samuel Eliot Morison wrote, quote, "On such a night as this, the Pacific Fleet had swapped punches with the enemy in Iron Bottom Sound, up the Slot, and off Empress Augusta Bay. But it had never before been so well prepared, with a flock of PTs to intercept, 3 destroyer squadrons to deliver torpedo attacks, and a battle line to cap the enemy's column." At 02:32, West Virginia went to general quarters. By then, the PT boats had been harassing the enemy for about 3 hours. Reports from destroyers showed the enemy at 18 miles, then 15. 30 minutes later, the destroyers reported firing torpedoes. Flashes of distant gunfire were visible on board the battleship. The scopes of the surface search radar showed both enemy and friendly ships. The range was 44,000 yards. Despite daytime air attacks and nighttime attacks by PT boats and destroyers, the Japanese force kept doggedly on course, 2 columns about 3,000 to 4,000 yards apart and zigzagging at 17 knots. Wiley's CIC detected heavy ships in each group. They were Vice Admiral Nishimura Soji's Force C, comprising battleships Yamashiro and Fuso, heavy cruiser Mogami, and 4 destroyers. They continued northward toward the battle line. Their searchlights flashed occasionally, followed by brief, rapid firing. Incidentally, only 1 officer remained from West Virginia's crew from December 7th. Lieutenant Thomas A. Lombardi, a reservist who had joined ship's company in November 1940, was high up in the superstructure in Spot 1. He caught the first sight of Force C. In the CIC on board West Virginia, officers realized the imposing force had no idea what was waiting for them. The American battle line stretched across the entrance to Surigao Strait in in a crescent-shaped line meant to cross the enemy's T, the classic setup in which the maximum number of Ollendorf's big guns firing broadside could be brought to bear against the minimum number of the enemy's big guns firing straight ahead. At 0333, the gunnery officer in West Virginia had a firing solution with what he described as a large target at 30,000 yards range. As the range continued to close, explosions and star shells continued to light the target area, and Wiley hesitated to fire until he was certain the target in question was Japanese. Wiley was confident of the outcome. The battle line had not bothered with smoke or any other form of deception. As he wrote in his after-action report, "With our preponderance of force, even if the enemy opened fire first, the range would soon be enough to assure blowing him out of the water quickly. Also, we were short of ammunition and wanted every shot to count." West Virginia had a little more than 200 armor-piercing rounds on board. Of the other two battleships equipped with the latest Mark 8 fire control radar, Tennessee had 396 AP rounds on hand, and California had 240. Because of their shore bombardment role, they carried more high-capacity rounds than armor-piercing. At 0349, at 24,000 yards, the division commander ordered open fire. Within 2 minutes, the light cruisers on West Virginia's right flank opened fire. In the battleship, Wiley's gunnery officer confirmed that the large target he was tracking was not friendly. Wiley opened fire at 0352 when the range was 22,800 yards to the target. Firing armor-piercing, the first salvo of all 8 guns of the 16-inch 45 caliber main battery let loose. A minute later, Wiley heard the gunnery officer chuckle and announced that the first salvo had hit. The second salvo struck too. West Virginia fired at regular 40-second intervals. The other battleships had begun firing too. On board the Fletcher-class destroyer Benyon, the name for which honored the memory of Captain Mervyn Benyon, the commanding officer of West Virginia, who died on board his sinking ship at Pearl Harbor, a young lieutenant and future chief of naval operations, Jim Holloway, watched intently as the battleship's tracers arced slowly through the night sky. The battleships, especially West Virginia and Tennessee, and the cruisers pummeled the hapless enemy. Wiley learned his target's identity as the Fuso-class battleship Yamashiro during the week after the battle. By 0358, the old battleship had come to a dead stop, with its radar pip shrinking. 4 minutes later, Wiley ordered a turn and check fire. He only had 110 AP rounds left. At 0411, Yamashiro's pip on the scope bloomed and then faded. 1 minute later, she was gone. West Virginia fired 16 salvos and a total of 96 AP rounds. Gunnery went to rapid fire after the second salvo. The first 5 salvos included all 8 guns. The next 7 salvos included 5 to 7 guns, and the final 4 salvos were only 1 to 3 guns each. Wiley was justly proud of his team's work. He reported that the first, second, and 6th salvos produced pronounced flare-ups at splash time, while the 4th proved especially concentrated on the target, but believed his ship had achieved hits with every salvo. On the Japanese side, Admiral Nishimura and most of his command perished. Only destroyer Shigure survived the Battle of Saragasso Strait.
That's all for this channel marker. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment or recommend another subject below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.